Now 250,000. Now, but to get 275. High, but to get 275. 3. Now 300,000. Now 3 1/4. 325. High, but to get 3 1/4. But to get 325. Now half. Now, but to get 300.
And good morning from Dallas, Texas, at Lincoln Center at the intersection of the LBJ Freeway and the North Dallas Tollway. We welcome you to another edition of the Mike McGavel Jones Show, and we've got a lot to cover today. Have a great show, and we've had a big weekend. I do want to send out thoughts and prayers to everyone that was connected to the mass shootings this weekend in El Paso and also in Dayton. Just another week in America. And, you know, I had a chance to watch the president this morning talk about it from the White House. And you know, it's just one of those situations that has grown over time, and now we're dealing with decades of it. And obviously there's going to be something done about it, but I don't know. They said there was something like 400,000 or 400 million guns in America. I don't know. You know, crazy people are crazy people, and you're out of the population we have such a large population. There's always going to be someone doing something that's not good for the rest of us. And unfortunately, social media is a big part of it because it's promoted, and then they promote the people that do it, so they have an outlet for their craziness. So anyway, we send out thoughts and prayers. Today, I'm excited to have two of my favorite people, and this is Craig and Angie Meier. They are professional auctioneers. They are involved in educating auctioneers. They're involved in the association. They're both members of the National and Texas Auctioneers Association. And so, good morning.
Hey,
good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Jones. How are you, sir?
I'm good. And I'm excited to have you guys on.
Well,
and
thank you for having us.
Yeah.
We're glad to be here.
Well, I want to start. We have a lot to cover in a short period of time. I'm going to start with Angie. Angie, you grew up in West Virginia.
Southwest Virginia.
Southwest Virginia. Is that like West Virginia?
It's like God's country. It's like God's country.
Is that somewhere on the eastern part of the United States?
Yes.
No, wait, is
That way.
it
Now, if we had a globe, let's
It's
say
in
my head was a
Appalachia.
globe. Well, I want you to tell me where you're from and a little bit about your childhood.
All right. I grew up in Radford, Virginia. My family is an auction family, fourth generation auctioneer. My grandfather, my dad, both my brothers are all auctioneers. My grandfather was also a real estate broker. So I grew up in the auction industry, auction business. We did farm sales and estate sales and all that. They also had an auto auction, so I grew up in the auto auction side of things. And we also raised beef cattle. So grew up on a farm all my life. And
That's cool.
yeah.
Brothers and sisters?
Yes, sir. I have an older brother, Brian. He's 5 years older than me. A younger sister, 2 years younger, Amanda. And a younger brother, 5 years younger, Matthew.
Lots of people.
Lots of people. Lots of crazy. Lots of crazy.
Oh, we've got more crazy to go. We're going to talk to Craig now.
She's a mountain girl. That's all you need to know.
I got it. Well, I always enjoy watching your on Facebook when you go home, you know, because it seems to be an adventure.
No, it's usually an adventure.
I bet.
That's where my heart's at. I love it.
So now, how long have you been in Texas?
Literally the day that Craig and I got married, I moved here, and that was 18 years ago.
Okay, well, hold that. That's another
All
story
right.
for another time.
All right.
All right, Craig, where were you born?
Born in actually Fort Worth, Texas, but out of Ennis, Texas.
Okay.
Yep.
So how did you end up in Ennis?
My dad was an ag teacher.
Really?
Out of Ennis, yep.
I didn't know that. Or
Yes,
if I
sir.
did know it, I forgot about it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he was an ag teacher there in Ennis, and born and raised my whole life.
I know that your grandfather had a lot of influence on you as a young man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about it.
Man, my grandfather is he's of German descent. Actually, English was his third language. He grew up speaking German and Spanish. Had to learn to speak English when he went to school. He didn't like that very much. Very old-fashioned, but a good man, strong man, and I was really blessed in my life to have him as a role model and someone, you know, he was a rock. You know, I always knew I could go to him and get a straight answer, and somebody you could depend on, for sure.
Well, I remember when we first met, meeting him, and didn't get to know him very well, but whenever he was around, there was obviously a reverence for him, much like my grandfather. It's exactly the same situation, only my grandfather was just country. He wasn't from another country. And he had a hard time speaking English. Not really, I'm kidding. Tell me how you got involved in the auction profession.
You know, my dad, I told you, was an ag teacher, and he had played around with auctioneering from when he was younger. He never got licensed. You know, at the time when I was a kid, he did a lot of benefits and charities. So there in Ennis, you know, there's with the Catholic Church there in Ennis, and there's, you know, schools. Charities and benefits are really big where I came from. You know, anytime somebody gets sick, you know, there was always something, but it was never something he thought of for monetary gain. You know, from the financial side of it, he enjoyed doing it, but I grew up watching him do those and getting in the ring and working those with him. I was always fascinated. Of course, we had cattle when I was a kid and spent a lot of time at the cattle auction as well. And my parents will tell you I was trying to auctioneer before I knew how to count. So for some reason, when I was a little kid, I always wanted to auction. We had an old Farmall M tractor. Of course, didn't have a radio. If you've heard me sing, it's better that I don't. So I would ride that Farmall tractor around, and I remember auctioneering around in circles, you know, a lot of my childhood growing up. So even as a young man, and the girls thought it was cool, and I liked to show off with it, but I never really thought of it as a career. I just loved to do it, and I loved to work on that chant. So from the time when I met you, which we'll probably get to, but I kind of had a chant growing up, and as those charities, from the time I was 13, 14 years old, my dad started handing off some of those little charities and little fundraisers, and everybody thought it was, you know, cool to see a little kid get up and auctioneer. So really started auctioneering from a pretty young age.
Angie, what's the first auction you remember going to? Do you have a recollection?
It's always been. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's always been.
There was never a first. It was just always around.
No, my parents were we're a clan and very hands-on. And when Mom and Dad went to go to an auction, we all went together to do it. So, I mean, I don't remember ever not working an auction. I don't ever remember my first auction because it's just always been a part of our life.
You probably at an auction didn't even know you were at an auction.
Yeah. But even though, you know, even as young as we were, I mean, because Mom and Dad we grew up doing it. I never realized, you know, the responsibility that we were actually put on us, I guess, by clerking or, you know, working in the office or registering people or whatever. You know, I always did that kind of stuff with my mom. I never was selling her in the ring or anything at that point. But, you know, it's just crazy the amount of responsibility really that we were handling. Mm-hmm. And not even realizing
as kids,
as kids.
Yeah, that's kind of where it was with us. You know, I was a kid just starting out. Speaking of benefits and charities, and we'll talk about all the things that you guys sell and have sold over the last umpteen years. But something that's near and dear to the Texas Auctioneer is Texas Scottish Rite Children's Hospital here in Dallas, which is probably 10 minutes south of here. And the Texas Auctioneers Association has designated Scottish Rite as our designated charity of choice, which means we raise money for them, and then we also do a board meeting in December every year. And Craig, you have a personal relationship with Scottish Rite. Would you share that a little bit?
Yes. Actually, I've had a couple of surgeries there, so spent some time there. So it's always tugs at my heartstrings anytime. Well, if you haven't been there, you need to go and really see what they do at that hospital and those kids that they're helping. And it's just, you know, a lot like St. Jude's. It's the same thing here in our area. Man, just do a lot of good for kids that need a lot of help. When I went in and did my surgeries, you know, it really changed my attitude in that, you know, you think you're in a bad situation, go there. And I really realized all of the, I wasn't really that bad off. I was okay. You know, there's kids there that have, you know, a lot worse problems than I had, and made me kind of shake it off and say, you know, let's move on.
So you had a little accident.
I did.
You want to share it?
Sure. 12 years old in shop class in school. Got my hand in a machine called a table joiner. Grabbed my pinky and pulled it in and kind of chewed up some stuff. So it took most of my right hand. I have half the pointer finger. At the time, that was in 1990. So we went a year. They pretty much just kind of patched it up. And they were talking about, I played baseball. Baseball was big to me at that time, big deal. And I pitched and caught, and I wanted that second finger back. So they had told me when I did it, well, hey, there's this new thing coming out. We're doing toe-to-hand transplants. And, oh, well, that'd be cool. Well, give me my middle finger back where I can throw a ball better. So and I was trying to throw one at the time, and, with a half an index finger and a thumb, I could throw the ball. I just didn't know where it was going to go. So if I was throwing it over a tank or a pond, I might hit the water, I might not. But so, make a long story short, Scottish Rite, we actually did cleanup with my grandfather. He was in charge of the state fair for over 35 years. As far as charge of the state fair, he was over a lot of the cleanup and changeovers in the livestock barns and the Coliseum and the horse barns, Panorama Arena. So as a young kid, that's where my Spanish comes from. He ran crews and did those cleanups. So one of the people there that he had worked for many years, can't think of his name, excuse me, but he was with Scott. He was with the Shriners, and they had the Shriners Circus. So as a kid, it was the coolest thing. I loved it when the Shriners Circus was at the Coliseum, and I would hang back there and watch the tigers and watch the people getting ready, kind of the backstage to the Shriner Circus, and got to know that one of the gentlemen there that kind of got my name on the list to get me into Shriner, because that conversation had happened about that toe-to-hand transplant. It was going to about $180,000 surgery at that time. So 1991, they had tried it twice at Dallas Baylor, and both of them had failed with 2 other people. So they said, I tell you what, we're going to take you over here. We're going to do this surgery. We have the best doctors in the world.
You're our guinea pig.
Get in there. It's free. And I said, okay, sign me up. I said, what's worst case scenario? Well, you lose a toe. I said, well, I already swim in circles. That's a little bit more going to hurt. So, yeah, we did it. And I think I was the first successful toe-to-hand transplant person here in Dallas. But and that was done at, a lot of people don't realize this at Shriners. It's not just a hospital. It's some of the best. Yeah. Best of the best. Yep. And, they were able to do it. That's 2 microsurgeons, 13 hours to do that surgery.
If it has something to do with a child and bone structure, we actually show a film at auction school. As you know, we do a fundraiser every auction school and have since 98, I guess, maybe 97, somewhere around in there. And we'll donate some funds to Scottish Rite, and we also donate funds to St. Jude and some other groups. But there are 2 primaries for the most part. Go ahead.
Well, just to say, Shriners, I was already signed up with Scottish Rite. So you may not even know this, but I cut, about 2 years later, I cut my pointer finger off my left hand. So,
what got against us.
I know. So my parents are so mad. They're like, "Oh my gosh, Craig, another finger. What are you doing?" Yeah. So
no, you never told me that story.
Yeah. So they put this one back on for me. I was already in their system, and boom. As soon as it happened, the next day I was in surgery. They put my finger back on.
That's pretty amazing.
Which I needed.
And how did you do that?
That's a long story longer.
Okay. We'll stop there. I want to talk about your successes.
So this is why I can take quarters and halves, and we can do so many increments.
Oh my God. Well, I think that's important for people to know, because a lot of people have different issues that we don't know about. Whether it's your hand or it could be your fingers or whatever, your arms, and the fact that you have done all that you have done in this business, and you fought through some things like this. I think that says everything you need to know about perseverance and wanting to do something and accomplishments. And it's not what happens to you; it's what you do after it's happened. So,
well, once again, the biggest thing Scottish Rite did for me was I sat in there for 8 days, that first surgery, and I looked around and I saw the kids coming out of there, coming in and out, and some of them were going out, the way you don't want to go out. Some of them couldn't be fixed, and the biggest thing Scottish Rite did for me was it helped me understand there's worse problems out there.
Sure.
You complain about not having shoes, there's people without feet, and that's the biggest thing Scottish Rite, and if we're moving on, that's what I just want to say, that's that charity is it's one of the greatest. It's a good place to donate to.
Well, and when we go to Scottish Rite the first Monday in December, and I think I may have mentioned this on the last show or the one before that, the Texas Auctioneers Board will actually meet and have a board meeting and a luncheon and doing our new champion will be doing an auction with the students. So
That's a lot of fun.
The
That's
kids,
fun.
yeah. I think I've been there. I don't know, pretty much all of them, but maybe one or two. I try not to miss any, but sometimes it's very hard. So you, I can still remember this, and it happened. It literally happened at the next intersection going west of here at Midway and the LBJ Freeway, where we used to have the school. Yeah, where your dad came in. Your dad Doug came in and brought you, and you registered for auction school.
I did.
Why don't you tell about that?
It's a funny story. I was in college in Stephenville, and happened to be out one night, and I was doing my chant. Anytime some girls wanted to hear me auctioneer, or somebody wanted to, hey, Craig, auction for us. We used to get that all the time, and I never really thought of it as a profession. And so I started auctioneering, and guy taps me on the shoulder. Actually happened to be a guy that lived in the area where my grandfather was from, and we knew each other, but never really visited. And he said, man, you're actually a pretty good auctioneer. You sound pretty good. I said, oh, thank you. He said, what are you doing this Saturday? Well, at that time when I was in college, I was working nights at a sandpaper factory and trying to go to college during the day. So I think I was working all week at that time for like $200. Long story short, I went and worked this auction for him. I held stuff up all day, got to sell some boxes at the end. Don't tell anybody, wasn't licensed. Let's keep that between us.
Great.
Great. Got to sell a few boxes, and he wrote me a check for like $250.
Wow.
Wow.
Now,
I'm in the wrong business.
Who was this
I need to
renegade?
get out of the forklift driving business and go in the auction business. His name's Dean Cagle. He actually owns the cattle auction there in Comanche, Texas.
Really?
Yeah. And so Dean had me come out, and we were doing an estate sale, and that's all it was. But he wrote me a check, and I was like, man, I work all week for this at nights, So that's really what put the idea in my head. And you were in the Yellow Pages. I had an old Yellow Pages back at the house. And
what's a Yellow Page?
yeah, I know, right? So I flipped through there, found an auction school. I said, I want to go to auction school. I'd heard about it before, and there was what formerly known as Texas Auction Academy, now America's Auction Academy, was. I looked you up, and I think that was like in May or something. And 2 or 3 weeks later, I was in auction school in June. And it changed my life. Really
June
did.
of '98.
June of '98.
June
that's
of
right.
'98. Yep. Well, it was interesting. Why don't you just tell the little, because I love little stories. I'm a vignette kind of guy. So you came in. Your dad was very very impressed with your bid calling abilities. Like you were like the greatest thing that ever came along.
Well, it's funny. My dad had. I called my dad, and he was living in Saxe, which is northeast of Dallas, if you don't know. And so I called my dad. I was, I didn't have a lot of money. I was in college and looking for a place to stay. And I hadn't seen my dad in a little while, and I called him and said, "Hey, I'm thinking of going to auction school. By the way, I spent like 2 months of my rent money on your school, but." He knew, and he said, "Carl," he said, "Craig," he said, "auctioneering's fun, and you're good." He said, "I think you do a good job." He said, "But I don't know if you can really make a living in the auction business." He said, "I think you need to concentrate on finishing school and doing what you're doing." And I said, "Well, I've already signed up." I said, "Can I stay at your house or not?" And he said, "Sure, come on." So yeah, I stayed with my dad that week, which was good. We hadn't spent much time together in a couple of years, and so it was kind of good to see him and stay with him there, and I think it was a 20-30 minute ride to here, but yeah, he came in the class. He was curious about it, but he had told me, he said, I know a couple of people that have gone to auction school. He said, I don't know if they ever sold an auction, and so kind of I think he was worried about me as a waste, but it wasn't the best thing I ever did. I think it's what you make of it.
Tell me about the what I thought about your chant.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite stories.
You didn't think it was near as good as I did. So I can't even do that old chant anymore. I used to kind of keep it in the back of my head, but yeah, a lot of hools, and man, I remember getting up there and I was going to impress you because most people that were in the class had never chanted before, and I thought, oh yeah, Mr. Jones is going to love this. And the more I got up, my veins were popping out my neck, and my face was bright red, and I'm just going.
You were a super skinny kid, too.
Well, I hadn't eaten in a while, Mike. I spent it on auction school.
I understand. You're not the first or the last.
A lot of people know this. Yeah, when I rode bulls in college and rodeoed, and when I graduated high school, I was pretty much the same height I am now, but I weighed 145 pounds. So take 60 pounds off this frame, I was a little lean.
You were. I've seen the pictures.
But yeah, so I got up. I was going to impress you with my chant, and I'll never forget. Mike said, "You need to throw most of that in the trash." I said, "What?" Which was an important lesson. I actually teach that now when I'm at your teaching at your school now, and anytime I'm helping somebody with their chant, I'm like, you can't be afraid to take 2 steps back and take something that's not going to work and help you go further. Don't ever be satisfied with what you have. Always try to improve it, and that's the hardest thing for auctioneers, I think. And you taught me that whether I liked it or not, or whether I admitted it for a few days, I did what you said, and I saw how I was able to take it to another level by throwing some of it in the trash. Some of it was never going to get any better.
Well, it's the same advice that Neil Davis gave me after the international competition in Omaha. I think it was 03, somewhere around there. It's the year that Spanky won, whenever that was. And I just remember I didn't make the top 10 or 15 or whatever it was, and I came off stage, and Neil had won the championship the year before, and I said, "Hey, have you got 10 or 15 minutes?" And because as I came off the stage that day, he said, "You're better than I thought you'd be." I don't know what that meant.
Wow.
I thought that was the ultimate insult.
That's what she said.
It was the compliment, the ultimate compliment insult all at one time. He was the whole package. I said, "Would you give me 10 or 15 minutes?" And we sat in the restaurant and for about 10 minutes. And I did my auction chant. And I try to do it for the students every once in a while to show them what it did sound like, which is really hard for me to try to even revert back and try it. It's just it's painful. But then I did it for him, and he said, "You're going to have to get rid of that and this," and same thing, But I'd already been in the business from 78 to 2003, so that was a really painful.
It would have been
transition.
93, right?
No,
With Spanky won. You're talking about
93. Yeah. 93.
Decades. They just fly by.
Well, they do when you're my age. Thank you for that clarification, time clock.
Well, I know you won in '98, so
that's true. Well, that's true.
I was, what's he doing in there in '90? When's he competing against me?
Fact check. So you come to school, you finish up, and you work some sales with me right out of school, and so there was some industrial sales, and I don't even know what all we did back then, to be honest with you, but I do know we did Schwegman Grocery Store down in New Orleans, and that was what? 98, 99? It had to be 99.
Schwegmans were 99.
Yep.
And then we rolled right into, you did a lot of Western Autos.
Well, a lot of Western Autos, and then
Montgomery
so
Ward.
in 99 we go to Grand Rapids. That's where our convention was in 99. And that's when I got on the NAA board. The next year, 2000, roll over to Norfolk, Virginia, and then tell me what happens there.
Well, we decided to go to a piano bar to hear some good piano music, and
maybe we should let Angie tell the story.
Well,
Angie, it's probably your turn to.
My turn to tell it?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how I ever ended up there. My dad was in the competition. The NAA, their convention is held in a different state every year, a different city every year, and it just so happened in 2000 it was in Norfolk. And I told you we're a clan, and I'll do everything together. Family bonding time. Dad's like, "Hey, I'm going to enter the contest. Everybody want to go?" So my brother and sister-in-law at the time had a set of twins, and the rest of us, we didn't have any children at that point, of course. So anyway, we're like, "Oh yeah, we'll go. Sure, sounds like fun." And ended up going down with Dad to, encourage him and cheer him on in the contest. And anyway, met Johan Graham out of California. Her and her sister was going out that night and asked if I wanted to come. Ended up in the dueling piano bar, and there it is.
I probably need to take over from here.
It's all history from there. Do not. He always says that I had taken a microphone off of somebody. I had not. He always says that, but it's
She was singing. You were there.
I was there.
She was singing.
I was there, which is really weird because I I don't know how I ended up there. You know,
We didn't
Me
either.
either.
that was probably a story in itself.
Well, she had her clan. I usually just kind of went around with anybody that had me. Just so happened to be with y'all that night, Mike. And what David Williams with Buddy Thomas. We had a whole crew there.
Yep.
And
Whole Texas crew was
walked
there.
in, and this hillbilly girl has taken the mic, and she is singing a Jewel song. And
I did not take the mic.
Yeah,
I'm not
you
saying
did.
I didn't sing the song. I did sing the song, but I did not take the mic from the guy singing.
for sake of argument, don't talk on it.
God.
So the
This
guy's
is like
reaching.
Desi, it's like Desi and
Yeah,
Lucy, only it's
so-
country version.
Rest is history.
Yep. So that's 2000,
Yes.
and we all escape and get back to where we belong.
Yes.
And then how long was it before you guys got married?
March.
March.
It was a long way to go to court, and I need it's a lot of gas money
Had to
driving
cut
back and
it
forth
short.
to Virginia.
Had to cut it short.
So I think I went back up there a month later. I told her, we hung out all week. I didn't think she liked me because I'd say, hey, you want to go, at the convention? Hey, you want to go to dinner? You want to go? We'll go to take you to.
She'd say no. She'd say no.
No. She'd always say yes, I'd love to, and then she'd show up with all her brothers and sisters and her mom, and so I was like,
Coming with me.
you want to go to the movies? Yeah, I'd love to. And then like 8 of them show up. I'm like, oh my gosh, here's the Hatfields, where's the McCoys? So I didn't know. So by the end of the week though, we were hitting it off pretty good, and I said, I'll come to Virginia. I'll come see you. She said, yeah, I'm sure you will. So I said, okay, well, hide and watch.
Now, where did you get married?
We got married in Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and immediately after we got married, not to get ahead of you, but is that where we're headed?
Well, it's all on one line. It says marriage - Montgomery Wards.
Okay, well, bam, right there, I'm falling in place.
There we go.
So we got married, and we left that night of the wedding and drove straight from Radford, Virginia to was it Laredo or McAllen? I don't remember the first one, or Harlingen. We did that little run setting up Montgomery Ward store. So I'd been setting up sales for you for a couple of years, and you pretty much said, hey, all right, here, newlyweds.
Yeah. Go to work.
So we were getting, y'all were
I've
selling.
never been to a border town, by the way. Wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
so yeah, I think when we went across the border, and she had never been. We're just kind of walking along the street and doing some shopping, and a guy comes up and says something to me in Spanish. He goes, what does he want? I said, he wants to sell some cocaine. So she said, let's get out of here. I said, okay.
Nice.
All right, buy some of them frogs and let's go. But so we would get ahead of you, and we were doing your setup, and y'all were coming in a day. A lot of times, whoa, how many of those were there? 40 some odd of them.
Yeah.
And we had that southern branch, and I guess you put me down there for the Spanish reasons, but I was getting ahead of you, and we were staying a day or two ahead of you. But thanks for the confidence, because I was 22-year-old kid, and you had me and my newlywed wife, and I knew if she didn't leave me in that first 6 weeks, that she was going to work out. But yeah, we spent.
Well, it was pretty brutal. I mean, it was a brutal schedule, because you had to set it up and then literally leave and go do another one, because we're just a freight train following you, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And then did y'all clerk it or did we clerk it?
We didn't work a lot of
We
the
were
lot
setting up.
ones. We were just setting
You were
up.
just setting
Straight ahead of
Well,
you.
see, what we ended up having to do is we'd have to go in, and we're trying to get these sheets processed. Literally, I thank God we lived in a time when you could afford a pickup that had electric power in the back, and we literally had people in the back seat typing the catalogs, arriving at the town, and then going straight to Kinko's.
We were there a day before you, putting it in lots, lotting and tagging,
Yeah, we
sending
lotted and
y'all.
tagged it.
We were sending y'all a list,
Yeah,
and
that's it. That's how we were doing it.
Yeah.
Y'all were sending us the list. But I know Farr and Brownsville and Laredo and San Antonio and all those.
She's like, is this my honeymoon? I was like, where are we going tomorrow? Well, we're going somewhere.
Well, and the other thing is, in our business, when our vacation is, that's called a convention.
Right.
That's our. It changes over time for some people, not for everyone, but it's for some people.
Funny story. I remember being scared to call you because I think we were in Harlingen, and I mean that one was pretty close just in, and we were staying at this Motel 6. I think you were booking our rooms, and we get to this Motel 6. And
Nothing but the best.
Nothing but the best. Hey, for me at that time, I was,
yeah,
the
you're glad
hotel
to have a
was,
room.
it was great.
Well, they keep the light on.
So I remember that I called you, and we had, actually that night we got in late. I think we didn't finish that setup till y'all were coming in the next morning. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and we go upstairs and in our room and pull back the Angie. I never check I've never checked a bed in my life, and she taught me that night that's worth it. But she pulls it back, and it looks like two gorillas had a wrestling match, and then there's hair all over the sheets. And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm not staying in here." And I'm like, just brush it off, it'll be fine. She's like, "I am not staying in here."
We are rolling.
And she said, "You are calling Mike Jones, and we are not staying in anymore." I shouldn't have said their name. It's a good hotel chain. I'm sorry, but they leave the light on for you and everything. I've always loved them. But yeah, so I had to call you.
It's factual. It's factual.
So I called you. I was like, "Oh, Mr. Jones, do you think maybe we could go to a Super 8 or could we upgrade Best Western? Maybe it's our honeymoon, for crying out loud."
Well, I can assure you, if you ever set up another sale, I'll put you up at a Hilton property.
Oh, Lord.
I've never heard that story.
True story.
All right, so we move along, and you decide to get in the auction business, and then you guys went down. Of course, you were already in Ennis, so you've got a family ranch down there. Tell me about the ranch and how that all came about.
Yeah, we lived in Stephenville when we first got married, but we were working in Dallas all the time, and was wearing out pickups and starting to get into the auto business. And she was clerking with me, and I was ringing and starting to sell. And this is 01. We decided, why don't we move closer to Dallas? We drive to Dallas every day. So I love Stephenville. We still have a place in Stephenville. We love to go out there, but just just wear and tear, driving 2 hours each way.
Sure.
So we decided. I said, well, I grew up in Ennis. Let's move back. So we had a little rent out, stayed in Ennis a little while. Long story short, we found this property in 02. The original tract was 540 acres. Had 3 houses on it. It was an old dairy. We kind of made a leap of faith. We really couldn't afford it at that time, but felt like we could work it. And we've built, raised cattle on it, and felt like it could pay for itself. Actually, it's probably one of the best things we ever did. But yeah, we've been there ever since. And
how many acres now?
That tract is 600. We added one little piece to it, but pretty much the same.
Yep. So you're running some cattle on it.
Yes.
And you have your friends over.
We have our friends over.
It rained yesterday. We had talked about
not enough
me coming down. Well, it rained where I was, so I go, well, I'm not going to go down there and get lightning strikes or something.
We were standing there with our hands folded. Please, come on.
Well, the people to the north got the rain. Yep. It wasn't you. So you get in the auction business. Now, you guys got into the auto auction business. You're selling cars. You're working at the auto auction. And how did you transition over to being an auctioneer at the auto auction?
I was clerking.
Well, let's back up.
Okay.
You came to auction school.
I did. Came to auction school in 03.
Yep.
I did. And so I was clerking at the auctions. Craig and I were kind of working the same schedule, so it worked out great with that. And I was working one of the fastest lanes. Craig and I worked together quite a bit, and working one of the fastest lanes at the auction. And I knew that the top paid block clerk got paid $115, and I was making $105. And I went in to ask for that $10 raise, and they told me no. And I was like, you know what? During this time, though, Craig and I would have conversations on the way home, and I would watch the Ringman and see how he and the Ringman would work together, and how Craig would call him and let him know, hey, check Jose, or hey, check, what I mean, or whatever is, it's Bill's car, ask him what it takes, whatever. Like, I was just picking up on all the things that he was saying to his Ringman, and sometimes the Ringman would follow him, and sometimes he wouldn't, and it just kind of got in my head that, I can do that. And plus it would be a pay raise as well. Mm-hmm. And just got real lucky. Barry Roop gave me a Nissan factory job that I was working every other month to get some experience, because that was the hardest part, trying to get some experience on the floor, just so somebody would take you serious, because there's not many women that work at the auto auctions, and I wanted to be taken serious for sure. And they had seen me on the block, clerking for so long. It was kind of a weird transition, but it was awesome. I worked on was able to do an early bird sale. Clint and Joey Sherman was working it, and they let me get at the back end of the car and watch how they work together. They're a world champion team, and got to learn from them. And This thing started falling into place, and one sale, which I would tell Craig, oh, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to get any ringing jobs. And then one would more and more fall into place, and next thing you know, I was working probably five a week. And then from there, just started trying to work my way on the block.
Yep.
So
Ever satisfied?
Well, I watched it happen.
Yeah.
And you're a great auctioneer.
Thank you.
And it's been fun to watch. And it's unique to have a couple that can keep the marriage together, work together, and do all the things that you do. I mean, nothing's easy. Nothing's easy in the world. But I think you guys make it look a lot easier probably than it is. You
we
know.
have a lot of fun. It has been a lot
Well,
of crazy.
you know what? If you can't have fun, why do it? So then you win the rookie championship in 05. When did you run the Texas rookie?
99.
So you won the Texas rookie in 99. So really, if you kind of watch the progression here, you both did the same things. You came to auction school. You entered into the contest. You got involved with the associations. In 2000 when did you win the Texas championship?
The state won the Auctioneer in 11, but I won the Ringman in 07.
In 07. So I'm looking here. In 2007, I happened to be in Denver. Just by happenstance. I was there doing a St. Jude auction downtown. And I told Lori, I said, hey, I forgot they're having the World Auto Auction Championship here. And it was like we had like some time to kill. And so we came out to the auto auction and about the time that you guys were doing your thing. And then the way it worked out, I got to watch you win the World Auto Auction Championship and the team championship all at one time.
Yeah.
That was uber cool.
Yeah, and looked up and saw you there. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, it really meant a lot to me that you were there. It was cool.
But it did for
worked
me.
out.
Did for
Stars
me.
aligned.
We almost swept it that year. I think you were third or in the Ringman, and we won the team and won the Auctioneer. That would have been
Yeah, it used to be
crazy,
a
but it was
2-day.
good.
It used to be a 2-day contest, and by Friday night I was sitting first. But
You know, they had
Works
a
out.
contest in California at that time for what they did. The payout for the winning the world, I think, was $10,000 at that time. And somebody wanted to start another contest in California, so they came out with this big $12,500 prize money. So Paul Bear said, nay, you're not going to be a bigger payout than I am. And that year he happened to bumped it up to 15 to blow this guy out. And then we won the team. So
You
we
should have
both,
told me. I could have said I was starting one.
So-
We could have got you 20.
I know. Would have been a good idea. And then we won the team, so we both got that. And then she won prize money for third. All that to say this, it was a pretty big payday, that contest that year. So we decided, you know what, we're gone all the time. We had a nanny, and we love our kids and spend a lot of time as much as we could. But at that time, we were on the road a lot. And so we decided, you know what, we're going to take this money. We want to give it back to the kids. So we built a pool. So it is called the pool that Paul Bear built. And we've thought about getting a mosaic in the bottom, but I haven't found the right artist.
Paul will appreciate that.
Right.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Did you won, or did y'all? I don't know the order of this. In 2009, another team championship was there?
It was, David Ray is a dear friend of mine from childhood, and I had won in the team with Angie in 07, and I wasn't going to compete anymore,
Right.
And he came to me. He worked for me at the auto sales a lot, and he said, Greg, I want to enter the team, but I don't want anybody else with you. So I said, okay, let's do it. So we entered the team that year, and it was in Pennsylvania. No, that was Florida.
it was Pennsylvania.
It was Pennsylvania, but I'm trying to think of the town. But anyway, we had, won the team with David Ray in 09. But
I think it was Lockhart. Does that sound
that
right?
is right.
Yeah.
So so you had a lot of success, and the auto auction. You have a lot of friends in the auto auction industry. In 2013, of course, both of you have been real active with the Texas Auctioneers Association. In 2013, you were president of the association. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Started on the board in 2003, so I had a 10-year stint.
Okay.
No, you were 2011. Was that right?
Started on the board in 2003, and got on. I think I started working the chairs then.
According to my sources, it was 2013. But if it wasn't, we don't care.
Right. Okay.
No, I was president in 13.
And somewhere in here, you learned to fly a helicopter. And I don't know why. And then you offered to let me ride with you. And knowing all the surgeries you've had with your hands, I wasn't really sure.
Yeah, nobody's ever thought it was a good idea that I climb in a helicopter, but knock on wood.
Tell me how that all. Tell me what your interest was in helicopters and why you decided to do that.
Well, I told you we bought the farm in '02.
Be careful when you say that.
Yeah, right. Knock on wood again.
Yes.
Yes. So we bought the ranch in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And when we bought our place, our house kind of sits up on a hill, kind of overlooks the place, kind of runs down into a big draw. But our front yard was tore up with pigs. And I asked him, what happened to the yard? That's wild pigs. I was like, wild pigs? What are you talking about? There wasn't pigs in that area. That's how fast they've grown in Texas. And at that time, I graduated in 1995 and '02, 7 years later. They're digging up people's yards apparently. So we came back to town and we bought the place, and I really didn't know how bad of a problem it is. So I told you we were kind of struggling with money, and we wanted to raise cattle. So all of it was in cultivation. So we spent a lot of money putting it back into grass. And so we get this process started, and I get these nice, pretty stands and these pretty green fields, and I go out there, and I know in one instance I had a 40-acre field. They just annihilated. I had to back drag it with a bulldozer just so I could get a tractor so I could plow. People don't know how devastating they are. So the only thing you can do is you set your alarm clock for midnight. You go out there. Back in those days, we didn't have all these tactical weapons and night vision and thermals and all this, and you're in your underwear and you got a spotlight and you got a bolt action rifle, and you drive up in your truck and there's 35 pigs in a field. Or let me back up, you go out there at midnight, there's no pigs. You set your alarm for 2 a.m, you go back out there at 2, there's no pigs. You set your alarm, you go back out there at 4 a.m, finally there's 38 pigs. Well, I don't care how good you are, you shoot 3 in your underwear with a spotlight and a rifle, and all they do is they run over on your neighbors, and then they chew him up for a little while, and then he shoots at them, and then they come back on you. So it really, you can't describe how horrific it is. And to say all that, to say this, I've got an auction I've got to in the morning. Yeah. So I love to hunt, and I love the outdoors, and I love all of that, and shooting and everything, but I like to sleep too, so and I don't like my thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage. So I'm telling you all that to tell you this. I was going to town one day with my young son. I think Rhodey was 6 or 7 at the time. This was in '09, and I'm going to town, and we used to pay the state. So we would pay in a supplemented deal that the state does. And I had a buddy of mine sitting on the road, and I thought he was broke down. He was out of his truck, thought he had his phone in his hand. Turns out to be a radio. I pulled over. I said, "Hey, Jason," I said, "everything okay?" He said, "Well, they're fixing to push some pigs through here." I said, "What do you mean push some pigs through here?" He said, "Helicopter." I was like, "What?" He said, "They got a helicopter. The state sent a helicopter to kill some of these pigs." No kidding. So we pull over. Sure enough, they run pigs right across the road and into the field across from us. Shot like 23 of them, and all of them. And I was like, oh. I got that little grin on my face, and I said, "I'm going to do that." And my buddy said, "Yeah, it does look like fun, doesn't it?" I called him on Monday and said, "Yeah, I'm in helicopter school." Same thing happened with Angie when we went to town and we ended up coming back home. I said, "Angie, I know what I want to be when I grow up." And she said, "What's that?" I said, "I want to get me a helicopter and I want to fly around and shoot these pigs. I hate pigs. The pigs have definitely pissed the wrong guy off at this point." So I said, "I want to get." So she goes, "Ha ha ha ha, that's funny." And I called her on Monday as well. I said, "I'm over here in Garland, this Sky helicopter." I said, "I'm learning to fly." I said, and I'm in helicopter school. She said, you weren't kidding. I said, "You've doubted me before. Don't doubt me." So that's how all that started. The first couple of years, we signed up farms. Angie will tell you, we literally would have farmers on a Sunday morning before church lined up in our kitchen wanting to sign up for some sort of help. And I think that first 6 weeks when we first rolled out the carpet and said, "Here's what we're going to do," we had 100,000 acres, just like that. Wow. And people wanting to. So that first couple of years, I charged them $1 an acre, and I didn't put a penny in my pocket for years. But when we first started, I spent it all on ammo and pilots. I figured out when I learned to fly, maybe I don't need to be flying doing this. Maybe I'll be better shooting. So I don't fly when we're pig hunting, but fuel, helicopter, and all that. We shot like 1,900 pigs that first month. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time that we saw a significant difference in damage. And we changed it in our area, no doubt. They passed a law in 2011. I thought we weren't going to. They passed a law in 2011 called the Pork Chopper Bill. So the Pork Chopper Bill allowed for you to be an outfitter and take people up and let them pay the bill. So it took the financial responsibility off the landowners and put it on the shoulders of the willing, which are sportsmen. So long story short, it's been great business. We have over 700,000 acres now that we have under contract, and we run that business about 8 weeks out of the year. So it's not all year, but
it's significant. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know a ton about the business, but you shoot these pigs, and can they be dressed out and given away, or what do you do? What happens to the pigs after you kill them?
Yes, you can. Some things have changed. When we first started, we didn't want to waste them. So we had an association with a company called Hogs for a Cause, and it was a mission-based organization where they had the resources. I didn't have the resources to take it all the way to packages of sausage. Yep. In this day and age, you can't call up the single mom down the road and say, hey, do you want some pork? And she says, oh, I'd love some. It would help her family. Yeah. And then you just go drop a hog carcass off in her backyard. They don't know what to do with it. So, we needed to take it that extra step, and actually you hand her frozen meat. So they had the resources and people that were donating their time, and when we used them, there's also some outlets where near us, necessity is the mother of invention. So they've taken it where they're starting to grind the pigs and use them for protein for like animal foods, dog food, stuff like that.
Yep.
And they have some different resources. I won't say we pick them all up. And a lot of the areas we pick them, we can't get to. The Hogs for a Cause, they've actually gone on and gotten enough donations. We had a TV show for a while, so they were on that, and they've gotten really well known. So they've created, they're actually USDA approved now, and so they don't want our helicopter shot at pigs anymore. I guess long story short, people bring them pigs that are live and trapped, and they can process them just like any other processor.
So you did you alluded to the show Hella Hunters. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that real quick.
Had a lot of fun.
Reality-based show.
Reality-based show. But, the cool thing about what we're doing, there's not a lot of contrived drama needed with the business that we were in.
Yep.
Our reality was entertaining enough. So we had a lot of fun with it. Terrell Coleman is an auctioneer. A lot of y'all might know, and a good friend of mine. But at that time, we were partners in the business, and we had a lot of fun doing the show. And but just the biggest thing we wanted to show was, we're not a bunch of crazy rednecks flying around slaughtering animals and having fun.
Right.
I'm not going to lie to you, it's fun. But
there was a reason.
There's a reason. I mean, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't needed.
Have you ever heard of what the numbers are as far as how much damage the hogs would do in a year?
Yes, and it's estimated. The best things we've found is through AgriLife, which is Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Their numbers that came out. Now, it's been many years since I've really kind of looked at it, but they were saying that there was estimated 3 to 4 million pigs in Texas. Now, they average $50 to $500 per pig annually in damage. So we just kind of took an average on that and said, well, let's just take the smaller scale of it. But, even if you say, it depends on where the pigs are. If a pig is eating a corn crop that's already established and ready to harvest, that's more of the higher end of that. If they're just digging some holes in pasture land and you have to go plow it every now and then, that's the smaller numbers. But it's significant.
You created a lot of relationships, too, because of it. You met and you had Ted Nugent on. I know he came down, and I'm sure you met a lot of other people with the means to get up and fly around and have some fun with that as well, because everything we do is relationships. Everything we do, whether it's the owners of the car dealerships, the people who are behind them, it's all relevant. And that one of the things as auctioneers, as our network, our book of business, our network is worth a lot. There's people that would die to have our connections, and I think that's part of it. So in 2016, you won the U.S. Bid Calling Championship.
Yes, sir.
Correct. In 2016, you won the Lone Star Open.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty good.
Had a good year.
You're cashing checks like crazy. The downside is when you win, it's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
Has been.
Well, it's not just that. The cash flow is cut back. I've still got more I want to cover, but I want to ask you both, and I'll ask Angie first. What do you think makes a great auctioneer?
Well, I think the relationships, just what you're talking about, it makes a great auctioneer. I think, whether you know the crowd that you're dealing with or you don't, you build in that relationship with them just when that first 15 minutes to 30 minutes, if they understand where you're. I think you teach a crowd kind of how you want them to bid to you, and just that they know that you're, I think, being ethical, I think being professional, I think, and having fun. I mean, I think that's what it's all about. I mean, I think just being honest, having integrity. I mean.
Also, I forgot to mention that you were the first to win the International Ringman Championship with the National Auctioneers Association. It was in my notes, and I don't know how I missed that. But that was pretty cool. Yeah. And for you to come out the very first year, and beat all the guys. Let's just put it like it is. There was probably some humble pie running around there.
That was some really good hands showed up there.
You were probably not that popular.
No, I was not that popular, I don't think, no.
That's okay.
But it was fun.
Well, that's all right. Everybody needs to be humbled every once in a while. Yeah. What makes a great champion?
What I think the key word in that question, what makes a great auctioneer, makes a great champion, is the word makes. I mean, that's what everybody wants to know. I think that a passion for the business and the love for what we do, and you could incorporate in, I use that a lot when I'm teaching, is attitude. It's your attitude that determines your altitude, not your aptitude. And having the right attitude, or having a passion for the business and putting your heart and soul in everything that you do, is what I think makes not only somebody a great auctioneer, it makes you a great real estate agent, it makes you a great preacher, whatever position you're in. But I see so many auctioneers that just don't have the right attitude, and they're never going to get any better. They're not going to go any further. They're happy with they're complacent in what they have and what they are. And having a passion for the business and really loving what you do, I think what it takes to really make yourself better.
You are both active members in the National and Texas Auctioneers Association, and I'm assuming you've been members ever since you got out of auction school.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Mm-hmm. You paid my first membership. Thank you.
Okay. No, well, you know how I feel about it. Tell me how you feel about it, because Angie, you are currently on the board of directors, and you are first vice president right now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you unless you screw up like Nixon,
right? I'm going to be president. Yeah.
You'll be president one of these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. I love being on the board. I've been on the board for a while, and I just love giving back. I love thinking of new, innovative ways. I like seeing the change that our industry takes, and I like being a part of that change, and just helping in the leadership role of where our association's going, or where our business as a whole, as auctioneers goes. It's nice to be kind of on the forefront of that.
Well, it's been it's very it makes me feel good to see what you guys are doing. Because, I tried to lead by example over the years, and to see you guys picking up and you doing it, you're the leaders now. You guys are the ones that are sponsoring things and showing up and being there. And you got to have leaders. And so tell me your position on that.
Well, people did it for me. If it wasn't for the associations, when I came to your school, I didn't know anybody. It wasn't for you. And I think one of my first sales out of school was Scott Swinson, and I kind of caught on real quick. My first convention was in 1998, which was 2 weeks after I got out of auction school, and coincidentally was just our last association. Was the last time we've been there, 21 years later. But it's important to me on the associations that they're still around to help the young kid like me that wants to be an auctioneer, wants to be successful in the business, doesn't have the means, doesn't have the knowledge, doesn't have the know-how, and doesn't even know the route to get there, which was what that was me. And to be able to come in,
really, though your dad did kind of mess around with the auction thing and do some benefits and stuff, you really are a first generation real auctioneer in your family, right?
It was my, I was inspired by that, but it was really my route I wanted to make my living in the auction business, and no, I had no knowledge of any of that. But to have the networking opportunities, and everybody was so good to me, and I was a kid, I was young, and kind of a mascot maybe, kind of, where's Greg? And but I could call anybody in that association and say, how do I do this? How do I sell this?
While we have a moment, name off just a few of those people that helped you along the way? Because I think it matters to mention people. I always tried to thank people, and the only error that I hate is when I've forgotten someone that I meant to mention, and then it's like, and you'll have those situations. But who are some of your influences?
To be honest, I don't have enough fingers to name them all. Honestly, you were a big part of me coming up. I always owe you for that. Scott Swinson, but a lot of them aren't with us anymore. Miles Autry was always had a special place in my heart, and Jim Sample, loved Jim. Jim loved me. He always took care of me, and
Dale.
Yep, Dale Lemons. Love Dale Lemons. I mean, there's so many of those guys, man. They were, they were in a position where they really just to contribute. I like to say, I love them. They love me, but there's a lot of people that Pat Long, Scott Swinson, a lot of people that I could call and get information from, and that association, and like I said, unfortunately, a lot of these guys that were around when I first got started aren't with us anymore. But that's why it's so important for to us to be a part of it in any way that's needed to kind of help carry it on. And I hope I can be for up and coming auctioneers what they were for me.
Yeah. Well, I think you both are doing exactly what you need to be doing when it comes to influencing and helping influence young auctioneers. That's one of the things that we need now, and we're really working hard with the National Association and the State Association to promote helping people get started. Because the more on board, the more time you hear the word auction, the more auctions there are. And as you know, there's a shift to online auctions in a lot of circumstances, and so the live auction is, of course, where you and I and Angie and our core friends, that's what they do. That's how they make their living. And so we want to continue to be advocates for the live auctioneer, but knowing the online component is here to stay. It's not going back in the bottle. So we just had this conversation. I just had it on a previous show with Scott Swinson because most of his business has gone the way of the online auction. And it for him, it's purely, he'll tell you, it's economics. And
I've said for a long time, auctioneers, whether you're online or whether you're selling live, we make our living selling mostly live auctions. We don't do an outside sale without utilizing the internet anymore.
Yep.
Not only in marketing, but we do live simulcast. People that do online only, what I feel over the years, I've always said this, even before online was a part of it, auctioneers, some auctioneers are so competitive that they, bicker amongst each other. And what we all need to understand is if you help each other, that's what the association taught me growing up. If you help each other, we all do a better job. We all help the industry, and it's better for all of us. And I don't want to catfight with people that believe in online auctioneering just because I mostly do live auctions. I think it's important that they educate themselves and they do a good job auctioneering, and I hope they do well.
Sure.
So I hope everybody understands that even the online auctioneers, the live auctioneers, we're all on the same team.
Yep.
We're all in the auction industry. So
well, I'd like to see more online auctioneers become a part of our association.
True.
And some have not. But a lot of the online auctioneers don't even really realize there is an association because they're just out there using a platform. So anyway, that's another discussion for another time. I want to talk about the Ringman and how important the Ringman is, and you guys have gotten very involved in and been a part of starting a Ringman school, and so I'm going to let you tell me about the World Champion Ringman College. Tell me about that, how it started, who's involved, and how how you're contributing to that now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually very excited about it. We've been going a year now. I have a class upcoming October 4th through the 6th. So it's basically a 3-day class, half a day on the first day and pretty much a half on the third. So, but it's 3 days. We really got the idea instructing through your school, America's Auction Academy. We've been doing the Ringman training for years. And you have so much to teach in auction school. I mean, they've got to learn so much. You teach so much business, so much marketing, so much. But the guys that want to get out there and really be a live auctioneer, it's a very hard business to get into. If you don't have any experience, nobody will hire you. If nobody hires you, you can't get any experience. And so we've always felt that there needs to be more ringman training, because most auctioneers that want to get out, if you want to come and work at an auto auction, you're more than likely never going to just get stuck on the block.
Yep.
So I had to, Angie had to, most everybody we know had to work their way up through ringing, and especially in registered cattle and in some of the upper end, ringmen, they can make a lot of money just ringing. I know, we know lots of great friends that make a great living just professional ringmen and never aspire to auction. So, that's offered for them as well. But most anybody that's going to work their way up and be an auctioneer needs to learn to ring. And we wanted to be able to take an auction student, or maybe somebody that's even we have a world champion coming to our next class because he's from the Northeast and they don't use ringmen, and he's starting to work sales in other parts of the country where ringmen are utilized more, and he wants to learn how to use them. He not only wants to learn how to use them, he wants to learn how to train them. So, I mean, like I said, we're going to train at all levels, but we want to take somebody that doesn't know, we literally have, that doesn't really even know how to ring at all. And in 3 days, we've shown we can take them to the next level, where we literally had a student that was struggling just to keep bids separated. Mm-hmm. And 3 days later, I think 2 weeks later, she went and got a job at an auto auction, which is unheard of. But somebody that didn't have experience working is to go get a full-time job. That's their goal. I'm really proud of that.
Well, that's the best money she ever spent.
It was. But basically, the Ringman College is about taking and learning techniques and learning how to go to the next level. Most, if you don't know, a lot of people just ringing. I call it ping-ponging. You're just going from one bidder to the next, one bidder to the next. But there's a lot more to it. A lot more. We do a lot of listening drills. We do. That's the biggest part of it, is teaching them to listen and hear and know what's going on in a ring without actually seeing it.
Mm-hmm. A side note before I finish on the Ringman College, how long have y'all been teaching at the auction school, America's Auction Academy? How long do you think you've been coming? 15 years?
Probably.
10 15 years?
Probably 15 years.
Yeah.
12, 15.
Yeah, you probably deserve a plaque.
You can hang it at a Motel 6.
Well, it may mention Motel 6. One of the things, you do the ring work with the students, which is great. They love that, and of course we take them to an auto auction. We've taken them years ago. We were at Odessa for a long time, and then we went to Mannheim for probably 20 something years, and now we're going up to Louisville, and we have a great relationship with all the auto auctions, and but you also work with the students on their Spanish because we are a border state. We get a lot of Spanish-speaking individuals, a lot of buyers at the auto auctions and other auctions. I mean, they are a big part of our demographic. Why don't you give them a little sample of little Spanish mixed chant?
¿Qué tal, amigos? Bienvenidos para ver los carros aquí. La nave de 20, la nave de 20, 20 segundos, 30, 30 segundos, 40, 40 segundos, 50, 50, vendido para 50 segundos. ¿Está bien?
Sure.
Lo siento, pero yo necesito practicar mi español, soy gringo.
Guacamole.
That's what you want, Captain.
Yeah. The Ringman College is coming up. The World Champion Ringman College is coming up in Denver, Colorado on October the 4th through the 6th.
Yes.
And that's going to be at the Drury Inn in Denver. Vaughn Long.
Yes.
And Sean Hagler.
Yes, sir.
And I had met Sean evidently, but you know how it is at these conventions. You meet people and you, it's hey, how are you? Shake hands, and you don't ever have a conversation with them. Well, I just had a conversation with Sean and in Waco at the Texas convention that we just had, and had a great conversation. I really like him a lot, and I think he's obviously very good at what he does, and just seems to be a great guy. I'm excited about your Ringman College, and so I'm formally announcing to the world here that we have we have reached an agreement to support and work with the Ringman College, the world champion Ringman College, because I believe in what you're doing, and I know you know what you're doing. That that's part of it. I don't endorse things I don't believe in, but one thing that we are going to try to coordinate having the Ringman College. Of course, you'll be doing your deal in Denver, but I would like to piggyback it at some point as a follow-up class immediately after auction school.
That's good.
So people, when they're already in town, it's an 8-9 day school. Well, if they can stay 3 more days and get that education too, I think it's a lot easier for people to do it one time than to have to break the class up and then travel again and all that. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. It's
going to be great.
So, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I think anybody that's interested in it, it's all hands on.
Yep.
And Sean and Vaughn had the idea and first started the school and brought us on board to come instruct, and we got more involved and ended up helping a lot with the curriculum and a lot of the drills and things that we do. And I'm really, really happy with what we've turned out. And, every time we have school, it's just getting better and better.
Sweet. I know, Angie, we have the Lone Star Open Bid Calling Championship here in Texas coming up.
We do.
Tell me about that real quick.
October 25th. It'll be held in conjunction in Fort Worth with the Red Steagall Festival. And they just opened or actually increased the jackpot of that contest to $10,000 this year. So that's huge. We went from $5,000 prize money last year to $10,000 this year. So super excited about that. And it's going to be a great competition.
I'm in.
I know. It's going to be awesome.
Me too.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. The problem about being a champion auctioneer, you only have one place to go.
Right.
That's right.
Well, it's funny because we get a lot, from the board about people wanting from, neighboring states that don't have licensing laws or an association or whatever to want to come in and compete for the Texas Auctioneer, title, or the state title. And, the TSLO is just, our way of being able to have a, Texas contest that can encompass, anybody that wants to enter it. And
well, that is becoming the norm. There's a Midwest contest and bluegrass or whatever. I mean, I think these regional contests are a good thing, and it showcases well what the auctioneers do. And of course, we do it in Fort Worth. Is that where we're doing it again?
It is. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And we usually do it. Are we doing it in coordination with Red Steagall?
Red Steagall, yes, sir.
Yeah, Red Steagall, the great country singer and poet, country laureate. And I think that's a great. It's just a really neat idea, and it's a neat place to do it too.
It is. It's a neat atmosphere. It's really cool.
Yep. Okay, once again, World Champion Ringman School, the Ringman College, is going to be October the 4th through the 6th at the Drury Inn in Denver, Colorado. I highly recommend that anyone that wants to get going in the auction business attend, learn all you can, and again, it's another network of people, too, to get involved with, because you never know who you're going to meet at these classes.
Right.
Any final thoughts before we cut you loose?
No, I just thank you very much for having us and enjoyed. I'm can't believe there's a couple of stories you hadn't heard before. But
there's Craig with you. There's always a couple of stories. Angie, thank you so much for being here. And Craig, of course, you're just like my kids, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome. So I thank you very much, and continue to do the good things and the good works that you do, because it will come back to you tenfold. On behalf of everybody that's been a part of this one in Dallas, we thank you so much for being a part of the Mike McGavel Jones Show. We hope you come back and see us next time. It's every week, and it's a beautiful day if you wake up. All right. So from Dallas, Texas, we bid you adieu from Dallas at Lincoln Center. God bless. Later.